Arm yourselves, America. This is Defenders Live on Mojo 50 Radio. You can find us pretty much anywhere that you can find any of your wonderful podcasts. But if you'd like to listen to us live, it's right here on iHeartRadio. Go to the Mojo 50 Radio app. Right over there. You can find us live right there. Or you can go to Mojo 50 on the Facebook page. You can see the video there and chat with us over there. You can also chat with us on the MeWe pages. Or what is that? Twitter. Twitter, if you use the hashtag, use the handle at DOAE Show or at Steven Airey, or the hashtag I see what you did there. Because I did see what you did there. Tonight, I have with me the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Knowles. I don't know if you guys know about him, but this man, he's not only an actor and a voice actor. He, what is it? The Another Kingdom, which is a great narration that he has done. He's written a book that that has absolutely no words in it. Sold millions of copies. I wish I had thought about it myself. And he's also the host of the Michael Knowles Show. Michael Knowles, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining me. I hope I got everything correct on there. Was that about right?
That I usually lead with the blank book because it's the most consequential thing I've never done. But I think otherwise you got it all just about right. Thank you for the introduction.
Yeah, not a problem at all. I mean, not everybody on Mojo has heard of you. I know this because I've asked. So
that's fair enough.
Fair enough, yeah. So tell people about yourself, who you are, what you've done, why it is that that we'd want to talk to you, honestly.
I was going to ask you that very question. I've ended up now, I'm out here in La La Land, one of the handful of besieged conservatives out here.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked in, for as much of a professional life as I've had, I've worked in show business and politics. So I've done, plenty of film, TV, plays, that sort of thing. And at the same time, even as a starving actor in college and after college, I was working in politics. I did my first political campaign at about 18 and got some traction, got to do some fairly trollish activities on that campaign. That was for a congressional challenger named Nan Hayworth in New York. And the long and short of it is we were running against an incumbent named John Hall, who had been a rock star in the 70s. He was in the band Orleans. So I started a side campaign called the Young Voters for an Orleans Reunion Tour to get him on the road and out of D.C. And we were ripping off their music videos. We were doing pretty early kind of YouTube political operations. And anyway, it did pretty well, and we ended up beating the incumbent. And so I started working on campaigns on the side. But as you may have heard, there are not many political conservatives in show business.
No.
It's really a vindictive and tough industry, very politically one-sided. And so, coming into Los Angeles, I was working a bit in New York, working a bit out here, and there was a little group of right-wingers in the entertainment industry. And that was how I really knew all of the Daily Wire guys. I knew Jeremy Boring, who was running the thing. I met Ben. He was one of the first people I met in L.A., Andrew Klavan. And this was before the Daily Wire existed. And they decided to put this website together, work on some political commentary, some political satire. Mm-hmm. They put it together, and then 3 years later, by the grace of the God King, lowercase g, lowercase k, Jeremy Boring, and the grace of the real God King, mm-hmm. with the uppercase letters,
yes.
The Daily Wire has grown into this huge website. A ton of page views every month. Our shows are all pretty popular as far as podcasts go, and it's just been this wild ride. And the way I ended up getting my show, as you said, was I didn't write a book. I did a blank book called Reasons to Vote for Democrats, a comprehensive guide, 260 or so blank pages, a very extensive bibliography. Mm-hmm. And it ended up, within just a few days of self-publishing this, it became the #1 best-selling book in the world. And it stayed that way for about a week and a half until I finally started to go down a little bit. And I had been doing a hit on Fox and Friends, and I guess the president saw it and he tweeted his endorsement of the book, and then it shot right back up to the top.
Heck yeah.
So now I need to work on I have to get onto the revised and expanded edition, I think, for the 2020 election, add a few more chapters. They can be inspired by Kamala Harris or somebody.
I was kind of wondering if you were going to do like a sequel, Reasons to Vote 2, something like that.
Are providing a lot of material for it. So
yes.
Between Senator Spartacus and Chief Hiawatha Liz Warren and Kamala Harris, there's just so much material. I think I'm going to have to write a sequel.
Oh, don't stress about forgetting Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, occasional cortex. Yes. We're going to have to include her in there without question. You know what's amazing about her? Just a little biographical note. She tweets out these things, and she says that she's Jenny from the block or she's Alex from the Bronx.
Yes.
She always describes herself this way. She did not grow up in the Bronx, and I know this because she and I grew up in towns right next to each other in this very ritzy part of the suburbs. Ironically, she actually grew up in the far ritzier town than I did. I grew up in Bedford Hills,
yes,
which is middle-class town. It's very nice, but a very diverse town, not affluent compared to other towns in the area. She grew up in this super ritzy place. And she pretends now that she grew up in the projects in Canarsie or something, but it's a total farce.
Is that why when she was all like, "Oh, I don't have money to go move to D.C., but I have however many thousands of dollars in the savings account," really she was complaining from an idea of being wealthy and rich. She doesn't have any money, but she does, and she just doesn't want to spend it.
That's right. Well, if you grew up in a very ritzy part of the suburbs, then you only having $8,000 or so in your bank account, you think, gosh, I'm really running low.
Yeah.
Of course, compared to the rest of the country, you're doing pretty well as a 28-year-old.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good as a 20-something-year-old.
According to voter records, by the way, she was living with her parents until 2016, so she should have had no rent to pay until then. You think after all those years she could have scraped together some tip money to put a down payment on a DC apartment. But I think she likes crying poverty a lot more than she actually lives in it.
So what you're saying is she was the typical millennial socialist.
That's right. Sipping on her triple cap frappuccino, typing away on her MacBook while she attends an Occupy Wall Street demonstration virtually. I think she's the perfect millennial socialist. Although, if you haven't seen these polls, they're pretty scary. The majority of American millennials now identify as socialist. This is the first time an American generation has identified as socialist ever.
Well, the good news is that Generation X is identifying as conservative overall. So that's the best news.
Right.
So the next generation coming up, the bigger generation, because X is bigger than millennial.
Right. And there is also something. I think Z rather. Yeah. I think there is something redeemable about the millennials in so much as they're very left-wing. They identify as socialist. They're also the most anxious and depressed and stressed out and overprescribed and suicidal generation ever. This is a big worry. I think the big reason that they are that way is because they grew up without much of any kind of mooring. They didn't grow up with much of a religious framework or much of a solid cultural foundation. A lot of them grew up religiously unaffiliated in basically secular materialism.
Yep.
And to give them a little credit too, basically all of their parents got divorced. They were all coddled. Now that they're out in the world, they're so fragile. They're so easily broken. And so every generation has its problems. It's very easy to make fun of millennials, and I do it all of the time. But I actually do see a little bit of hope for them. A little hope in so much as if we can right our political culture a little bit, if we can explain to them what socialism is. The majority of American millennials are socialists. Only about 16% of them can define what socialism is. If we can just educate them a little bit, ground them a little bit, I think there's actually hope. They're clearly looking for some purpose. They're looking for some clarity. And they just, unfortunately, weren't able to find it in their very confused upbringing.
Yeah, well, that happens when you're basically helicoptered over for the entirety of your life. And going back to the idea of finances and everything else, one of the biggest proponents that people have today is retirement planning. Retirement planning is not something to be overlooked. You guys, you need to act now. You should contact Era Capital Management today. They can help put an investment plan into place using their in-house portfolio management process. It's your life, your era. Invest in it. Era Capital Management, LLC is a registered investment advisor. Investing in all securities involves a risk of loss. Visit eracapitalmanagement.com or call them at 509-559-6229, 509-559-6229, eracapitalmanagement.com. Let them know that Mojo sent you. So, and getting back to the millennial ideas and the understandings of the loss and everything like that, one of the big losses that you had that you also mentioned is a loss of faith, a loss of understanding of the reality and the moorings of moral understanding. You can see that when people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez decides that she's just going to say, it's okay to be, right factually, but it's better to be morally correct. And she has no idea or no understanding of what moral actually means.
That's right. You actually, I think, are seeing the fulfillment of what Pope Benedict predicted in 2006. The most consequential oration of the 21st century was something called the Regensburg Address, and he identified that there was a radical subjectivism in our culture. There was a dictatorship of relativism. And this, a lot of thinkers have talked about this. And so Alexandria thinks, well, there are facts, there are things that we can call are factually correct. Mm-hmm. And then there's just morality, man. And, that's just sort of what I think and what you think. Nobody can really prove it. They don't understand that the metaphysical world is knowable to some extent as well. Obviously, we can know facts about the physical universe. We can know what the temperature is outside. We can know what, how fast our car is driving. But we don't live in a material world primarily. All the things that really matter to us are virtue, our liberty, our loves, our joys. All of that is immaterial. Mm-hmm. That's metaphysical. And I think there's just such confusion about what that metaphysical world is really like that they say, oh, ignore it, forget about it. It's sort of that very popular atheism of Sam Harris or Christopher Hitchens or somebody. It's very shallow thinking. But this is a generation that's been poorly educated, so shallow thinking, I think, is pretty convincing to them. This is also, by the way, why you see the central issue for Ocasio-Cortez and her fellow millennial Democrats is the Green New Deal, because everybody's got to serve somebody. Everybody has a religion. As Andrew Breitbart pointed out, politics is downstream of culture. Culture is related to the cult. It's downstream of what you worship. Mm-hmm. And for these people, the Green New Deal is the religion. So you might ask yourself, in this Green New Deal, which we were all laughing about,
oh yes,
why is it going to knock down every building in the United States? Why does it include socialist health care, a universal basic income? Why does it take over whole industries? It's because it's a totalizing religious system. Mm-hmm. It's a religion. It's unfalsifiable as a religion, and it even includes buying indulgences in the form of carbon tax credits.
Yeah.
It has every aspect of a religion. And I think millennials who think that they're above it all, they're secular materialists, they don't realize the human heart has a longing for religion, a longing for the transcendent and the divine, and they're just simply focusing it on the wrong thing. They want to save the earth. They want to save the whole world and believe that that's within their power. And it's a fool's errand. I think that's why, that document on the Green New Deal could have been written in crayon. But it's speaking to a natural longing that for them is just misguided.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's very much so. And speaking of spiritual truth, spiritual understanding, forgive me, I'm a Protestant. Don't hold that. Don't hold that against me.
It's not for me to forgive you.
Don't hold that against me. Is all I'm saying. I'm a Protestant in that fashion. I would be what a millennial would call non-denominational. I believe in Christ. I believe in the following. I believe in the Bible. I read it daily. I study it as best as I can. and understand it as best as I can. But I'm not the catchings of religion overall. But one of the big problems that that both of our sects of religion have come to face, whether it be Baptist or Catholic and things like that, it's come to fruition that there's been a lot of wolves in sheep's clothing in the church as of late. What's your thought on all of these things? The latest has been Southern Baptist in Texas. They found almost 200 different cases, 200 different victims gone across over the past 20-something years. In this sort of thing, the Catholic Church has been kind of riddled with it and back and forth over time. What's your take on that sort of thing?
Yeah, I thought the number was even a bit higher, but regardless, I'm sure it's high in all religious traditions. I wasn't at all surprised when I saw it with the Southern Baptists. Mm-hmm. I wasn't surprised when I saw it with the Catholics. I think actually some Catholics reacted to it with almost a sort of perverse relief. They said, "Oh, gosh, at least one other religious tradition has this problem, and it's not just Catholics." I wasn't surprised at all. I also know Catholics who lost their faith over the sex abuse in the Catholic Church, as mm-hmm. though their faith hinged on the good works of their priests or bishops or something. Trust me, if my faith hinged on the good works of bishops, I would have very paltry faith,
yeah,
especially
exactly.
these days.
Well, that's the entire point, yeah.
And this is a problem that has... there's nothing new about this problem. It seems to be in the Catholic Church, in other religious traditions, Southern Baptists, that the rate of sex abuse is about 4%, which is about the national average. Rates of sex abuse among school teachers actually are higher than among preachers and priests and bishops and those sort of people.
And that's growing in the female teacher to male student ratio.
That's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, when you just look at the actual breakdown, between the sexes. Mm-hmm. And the issue that I found is when that Pennsylvania report came out, I was not shocked at the magnitude of the issues. I was not shocked about the scope of the abuse. We knew when the majority of the abuse occurred. It happened coincidentally during the sexual revolution, which was also a time of real lack of discipline in the Catholic Church.
And great experimentation.
Theologically, yeah. And but what was so really genuinely shocking about it was the wickedness of it, the Satanism of it all. I mean, it was really, I read every single page of that Pennsylvania report, and it makes one realize that evil has a personality. It makes you realize that this is not just some physical longing, some perverted priest finds a little boy attractive or something like that, that there's a real personality to this evil. They would have them do satanic rituals. They would have them mock Christ or mock the host. It was coming from a much darker place than just the sins of the flesh. And this is true across different traditions. That's the nature, I guess, of a fallen world. I'm pleased that the attorneys general have looked into this. Mm-hmm. I'm terribly disappointed in the bishops and Pope Francis's handling of this. It's been pathetic. They always talk and talk and talk, and they say there's going to be transparency, and they say that there's going to be an end to clericalism. And then what do you have? You have people covering up abuse. The abuse itself isn't the surprising thing. It's a very sad and tragic fact of the world. It's the cover-ups. The cover-ups are really awful, and you simply don't see heads roll. They managed to get out that one perverted Cardinal McCarrick, but what about the other bishops?
What about the other priests?
What about the other priests? Yeah, I mean, what they would say about the priests is that a lot of them are dead, at least in the Pennsylvania report, because the abuse happened in the 70s or the 80s. Mm-hmm. A lot of the priests are dead. Okay, but what about the bishops who were covering it up? Some of those bishops are still alive. What about the cardinals? What about those guys? There seems to be no accountability for them. And so my recommendation to the Southern Baptists who are really just grappling with this publicly for the first time is to do as I do. I've given to my church to keep the lights on every week. I have not given to the bishop's appeals. I have not given to the various organizations associated with the bishop. Until I see some accountability from them, I think that the Catholic laity should vote with their wallets and their pocketbooks, and I think the same is true of the Baptists. I don't know exactly the hierarchical structures for the Southern Baptists.
You have the Southern Baptist Convention, and that's it.
Right. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah. I think you shouldn't punish the local church. You should try to keep the lights on. People need priests, and
right.
they need spiritual edification. But certainly they should punish the hierarchy, because a lot of these guys have shown they are cynical clericalists who are not going to respond unless you exert serious political pressure on them. They want to behave like politicians, and they're going to be treated like politicians by their constituents.
Yeah. And that's just how it is. It's your money and your purse that's going to take care of it. Now, you guys, if this turns your stomach like it turns mine, you should try Atrantil. Reason why? Well, Atrantil is the first ever over-the-counter proven solution for things like bloating, chronic IBT. If you have issues with gluten intolerances, this is something that can help you. It is a 100% natural polyphenol designed to address bloating problems and that begin where they begin, not just to treat the symptoms. If you go to lovemytummy.com/mojo, use the promo code MOJO, you get a 3-month supply. Normally a 90 capsule box, which is a month's supply, is $39.95. You get $20 off. They save you $20 on this for a 3-month supply for $99. lovemytummy.com/mojo. Use the promo code MOJO there. You get a 3-month supply for only $99. And it really does turn my stomach. So it's you have the Southern Baptist Convention, and when we said that, when we went through that entire process, you were talking about how you were going up through the ranks of the clergy. And yeah, it's the Southern Baptist Convention. They literally turned away and shunned the people that were calling out the abuse.
Right.
They covered everything up.
Right.
Every time that it happened, they kept on covering up, just like they did in the Catholic Church, going through, just pushing them to a different church, pushing them to a different cathedral, pushing them out, and then it would just happen again. And
there is a real issue with people being promoted in the church. It's not just about sex abuse. It's a broader problem of some of the most excellent priests I've ever met.
Mm-hmm.
True spiritual leaders, saints on earth, brilliant men, will never be promoted. They will never be promoted up the hierarchical ladder, because unfortunately it does seem that in many cases the episcopate rewards mediocrity, or rewards being a sort of company man, or rewards a certain strange loyalty.
Yes.
And so this goes all the way up. Pope Benedict did a tremendous job laicizing priests and people who had covered up abuse. There was famously in this last flare-up a letter from Archbishop Vigano, which described how the McCarrick problem, he was, an abuser and a cover-upper of abusers,
yes.
How this was brushed aside by the Vatican. Pope Benedict did what he could to remove him from the public, not to just shift him around, bar him from speaking, but he faced a lot of opposition. And ultimately, as you know, Pope Benedict resigned, the first priest to resign, or pope to resign in 600 years. We don't really know the circumstances of that resignation. I'm sure we won't for some time until historians uncover what happened. But it does give you a sense of the magnitude of the problem, the magnitude of the corruption, not just sex, but financial corruption at the Vatican Bank, which is always occurring, and episcopal mediocrity that is being rewarded. That's a daunting challenge. The church is always in need of reform, and the church is always in need of people of good faith who are really trying to correct it, because it's, I guess the other reason why I was never surprised by the sex abuse scandals is because I understand the personality of evil, and I think if I were the devil, what would I go after if not the church? If I were the devil, where would I focus all of my attention? Would I focus my attention on the creepy bars in Brooklyn? No, those places are doing well enough on their own. I would focus all of my attention on the bride of Christ, and it seems that he's made some headway.
Yeah, it does. It does seem that he has made some headway. It does seem that the church overall has pushed a big effort into that placement. And I think and I hope and I pray that as it goes on and that as everything kind of hits to and hinders through, that we get to a place where we can actually say, okay, yes, we are past this point, that the shepherds are actually shepherding the flock. I would just hope that happens sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Well, there are periods of ups and downs. I hate to be the pessimistic sounding one, but because we're fallen creatures, I don't think we're ever going to root out sexual abuse. Where we can make some headway is creating and incentivizing institutions whereby that abuse doesn't fester and whereby the abusers are brought to light sooner rather than later. That, I think, is possible. Mm-hmm. In the Catholic context, we are waiting on those reforms. The Pope has pushed off the conferences that were supposed to address this issue. We'll wait on this. We'll wait a few more months. And so I'm anxious to see the reforms. Otherwise, what I suspect is that it's all going to be talk. Now, the one advantage that the Catholic Church has is millennia of history and institutional history, and at least some checks, at least some places where the laity can turn and where good priests and good bishops can turn to try to fight this. Mm-hmm. When it comes to something like the Southern Baptist Convention, I'm just not familiar with how that process would take place. And so the one thing I can promise is that a scandal is never going to take down the Catholic Church. If the Catholic Church weren't scandal-proof, it would have fallen apart a very long time ago, probably many, many times. It just has a sort of inertia to it. It has a real weight to it. Whereas more recent faith traditions, I do fear that they're much more susceptible to scandal, and I'm not sure how they'll fare in reforming themselves or rooting out the bad actors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely understand what you mean there, and that's kind of the point going through. Let's kind of change gears here. Let's change gears a little bit and go through what we have. So I'm sure you've been on the road a little bit, right? So have you been keeping up with the news as you've been on the road?
I've been keeping up. I've been doing the show sometimes from the road. I've been doing one of these tours with Young America's Foundation, where we've been hitting college campuses all over the country. I was at Emory last night. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, a couple nights ago. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it's a great opportunity because you get to talk to all of these students. And you get to hear if really the craziness on campus is as bad as the conservatives all say it is, or maybe we're exaggerating it a little bit. Right. And I am here to tell you, from the mouth of these students, it is actually worse than we all think it is.
Really?
It is somehow the leftism, the persecution of conservatives, the totally hollowing out of the liberal education. From what these kids tell me, from what they show me, it is actually even worse than we can imagine. The preferred pronouns, the safe spaces, the kids being pulled out of class or having lower grades because they say things such as, there are two biological sexes. It has really, truly, genuinely gone off the deep end. And I don't know how, talk about institutions reforming itself. I have greater faith that the church will reform itself before Yale University will.
Yeah, I can see that. I can understand that being the case. So, with everything going on, you've been keeping up with the news. I can't. With the college system, I know what's wrong. We both know what's really going on there. What's actually been what's happening in those things, that they've been hollowing out, that they've been doing that. But let's talk about California a little bit. I talked about this on yesterday's show. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is going to get blindsided a little bit. She's going to get blindsided a little bit because, apparently the governor over in California has said that long distance rail is too expensive to continue going on with their passage. Have you heard about this?
I'm shocked. I'm totally shocked to see this news. It turns out that completely inefficient, completely overpriced, gigantic government project is not going to work out as well as the left said it would.
Oh, you mean that $10 million project that turned to $77 million by 2015? Or billion, excuse me, billion, not million,
it's
billion.
So weird. Who knew that the government shows up a day late and $1 short? I always thought that they were such good stewards of the public money.
Right?
Turns out not quite. It is, this news couldn't have happened on a better week than just after this Green New Deal is proposed and totally becomes a laughingstock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have the Green New Deal and everything else going through. Yeah, continue, please.
Obviously, we all knew that this high-speed rail in California was just a disaster. It was just a way to set piles of money on fire. But I have to say, in chaos, there is always opportunity. And I get such a kick now that our wonderful Senate Majority Leader, Cocaine Mitch, is going to bring the Green New Deal up for a vote. Talk about a great wedge issue. He has come out and he said, I have read with great interest the Green New Deal, and I think it's about time that we get it on the record and we get the opinions of everybody on the Green New Deal, have them out publicly. Of course, these Democrat senators are furious because if they support the Green New Deal, then they're supporting a $40 trillion unpaid obliteration of 88% of American energy, outlawing airplanes, outlawing automobiles, outlawing people's houses. I mean, it's a ridiculous farce. But if they oppose the Green New Deal, then all of these radicals who have come into Congress, all of the Ocasio-Cortezes, are going to lead the base against them. They may get primaried in 2020. They're really damned if they do, damned if they don't. And Cocaine Mitch is just loving it. I think he's just reveling in it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. He's definitely reveling in it. I mean, the man is cutthroat. If everybody doesn't know that, he seems all like turtle and slow and everything else, but the man is a cutthroat bastard.
Oh, yes. He look like a turtle and talk like a turtle, but that man is all shark. He has been a shark his whole career, and he knows exactly when to. He's sitting there, maybe he's got his head inside his shell, but he knows when to make that move. He knows when to come out and snap.
He knows exactly when that is. He's a big old snapping turtle, if anything else. Now, by the way, guys, if you are not ready and raring to go, if you decided that you have been sitting back, waiting, and relaxing, maybe you should go to traguns.com. Go to traguns.com. Make sure that you are ready for anything. That's Tar River Arms is the company. They've modernized online firearm sales to accommodate the online generation. They have great guns at a great price and great service. It's veteran-owned and operated. Kurt has been a huge help here over at Mojo. They have weekly specials. They eliminate the shipping and the brokerage fees. Just tell them that Steven over at Mojo 50 sent you. Go to traguns.com. Go buy the guns today. Matt wants every single one of them, so why not go and buy them out from underneath them? Because you can, and it makes sense to do that. traguns.com. Tell them that Steven over at Mojo 50 sent you. Now, with Cocaine Mitch and with everything else going on, what has been the big thing that's been on your mind as you've been walking through and going through these YAF conferences?
Well, I think the biggest issue facing campus conservatives and young conservatives in the media is censorship. I think it's the censorship of big tech. It's the censorship on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. And then obviously on campuses, it's censorship by professors and deans and associate deans, deputy associate, assistant deputy dean of inclusion or whatever, all the way up to the office of the presidents of these universities.
You know, that's actually an office. You know that, right?
That is. They're running the whole campuses now. And these guys are, obviously, they're cutting away at the very heart of what the new media are. They're cutting away at what the heart of liberal education is supposed to be. And it's only getting worse. They're only upping the attacks. My own show has been censored many times. Prager University has been kicked off of Spotify. Many videos have been banned from YouTube. Speakers, obviously, are banned from college campuses. A program that I was involved in college, the William F. Buckley Jr. program, now every year hosts a disinvitation dinner. Once a year, it's a black tie event, and they invite one of the myriad conservatives who have been disinvited from college campuses to give a speech at this dinner for their program.
That sounds awesome.
Unfortunately, every year, it's a great dinner, but the sad news is that every year the list of potential honorees gets bigger and bigger.
So the list of honorees gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and everything goes through, and these people go and they're awarded basically for being honored as kicked out.
That's right, because we're basically taking, as conservatives, we take lemons and make lemonade. But when I talk to the kids on campus, this is the big issue, is the censorship, the feeling that they can't say what they believe, that they'll be punished for doing it. And then I say, well, of all of the things that you believe, the myriad issues, all the way from, I don't know, fix illegal immigration to lower taxes to support our country out or whatever, of all of those, what is the most contentious belief that you have? And you know what they tell me is the most contentious belief is that there are only two biological sexes. That is not a joke. They say the most outrageous, offensive thing you can possibly say is that men cannot really become women and that women cannot really become men. I can't imagine, of all of the issues, I have some self-awareness. I know that my politics are to the right of Genghis Khan.
Yes.
There are some things that people might find objectionable or at least confusing. They might not have considered politics from that angle. But of all of the issues, it seems to me the simplest one is that men are not women. And yet this is the predominant issue on campus.
Then I would obviously be kicked off of campus almost immediately.
Yeah, that's right. We don't do very well on campus these days. Again, I think what this gets to is that radical subjectivism. You know, the basic sin of our age right now is this deconstruction. We deconstruct everything. We deconstruct academic departments. We deconstruct literature. We debunk history. We dismiss religion. Now we literally deconstruct what it is to be a man, or what it is to be a woman. We deny those categories altogether. This can't end well. In fact, it creates a lot of contradictions. So in the leftist ideology of intersectionality, basically the victim ideology, the identity politics ideology, what they say is if you are an extremist Muslim and you are, or let's say that another person is a radical gay activist, what you two need to do is band together against the top of the oppression pyramid, the straight white male who knows that he's a male. And even if the radical Muslim guy wants to throw the gay activist off of a building, like they do throughout the Middle East.
All the time.
Even if that's the case. It happens all the time. And instead, what you have to do is band together to fight the chief oppressor. The only reality that these people will admit is not philosophical reality. It's not even really physical reality, the reality of sex and gender. The only reality they admit is the reality of oppression. If you feel oppressed, then that is the only reality that matters. That is your lived experience. And if you can identify the oppressor, and they have done that, it's the straight white man who thinks he's a man, then that character, that category, is totally open for condemnation. You saw this with those Covington High School boys. There was a woman that immediately, those kids waiting for their bus in Washington, the crazy Indian man started banging a drum in the kid's face. The black supremacists were hurling insults at them. And everyone blamed the kids just for standing there.
Right.
And when the longer video came out, it showed the kids didn't do anything wrong. A senior culture writer for BuzzFeed came out and she said, okay, maybe the video shows that we got this wrong. But you should at least understand why that face caused a visceral reaction in so many. And what she's referring to is the fact that the kid was a white boy. There was an article in the Yale Daily News the other day, a student newspaper, about how all white, brown-haired kids at Yale are evil, all the boys.
Of course they are.
How they're evil. They're the future Brett Kavanaughs. And has there ever been a more villainous person on earth?
Yes, there has. He is currently the governor of Virginia.
Well, right.
And then the assistant governor of Virginia, and then the attorney general. All of those, they're all worse.
Well, it's amazing with that guy, Ralph Northam, the governor of Virginia, goes on the radio. He advocates killing babies after they have been born.
Yes.
This doesn't rile up the Democrats.
No.
What riles up the Democrats is that 35 years ago, he put on blackface in a costume.
Yes.
That was the end. The fact that today he advocates killing babies after they've been born, that's no big deal. Hey, look, we all do that.
What about okay? So what about in
photo.
2016 when that one lady from The View, the old lady, I forget her name. Do you know the lady I'm talking about?
Joy Behar
Yes,
or Barbara
that one.
Walters?
2016.
Yeah.
Behar. 2016 came
Behar,
out
yeah.
with a picture of her doing blackface when she was in her college years as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh yes, she wore blackface. I mean, all of these. Jimmy Fallon wore blackface. He did
Yes,
a Chris
he has.
Rock impression.
Yes, he has.
I remember Ted Danson did blackface years ago. I mean, a lot. Jimmy Kimmel, rather, one of the most insufferable people. He did not only did he do blackface,
he did
a
Karl
whole
Malone.
That's right, Karl Malone, making fun of Karl Malone's intelligence. He did the whole blackface shtick. None of these people have to pay because being a Democrat means never having to say you're sorry.
Yes, that is correct.
If they didn't have double standards, they would have no standards at all. It's the only way that I can see it.
Yeah, well, it's not an issue that, just like you said, it's not an issue that these people were killing babies left and right, saying that it's okay to actually wait for the baby to come out, be born, and then just leave them in a room by themselves until they die.
Yep.
That's okay.
That's right.
That's fine. But it's not okay to have one time when you were in college possibly done blackface and done the moonwalk?
Right. Well, I was just waiting for him to do the moonwalk at that press conference.
Oh, he was wanting to. You saw that, right? You saw in his face. He was trying.
He was looking. Oh, yeah. Only his wife is the only one with sense in that family. But of course, and I have to say, as far as Northam is concerned, Northam is obviously not a very intelligent man. And
For being a doctor.
I find it pretty charming. Yeah, it's like the understatement of the century. But what I find charming about it is that he's actually pretty honest. He's following the logic of abortion to its logical conclusion.
Yes.
Which is that if it's okay to kill a baby at 24 weeks old, if it's okay, then in that case it's okay to kill a baby when it's 40 weeks old, when it's being born, as
Yes.
is now legal in the state of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's okay to kill a baby as it is being born, 40 weeks old, then why on earth is it wrong to kill that same baby an hour later?
Right.
It's the same. The baby hasn't changed. It's been an hour or less. It's been 2 minutes.
And as long as it's
And I
your
think
kid, it's okay to kill the child at any point in their life.
That's right. As long as the kid turns 15. I was a 15-year-old boy once. I was a real jerk. Maybe the mother says, this is really affecting my mental health. This is really having a negative effect on my health.
Yes.
And so then she can off the kid by the logic of abortion. And as Governor Northam lays it out, I think conservatives owe Governor Northam a huge debt for at least being honest and taking away some of the veil.
Yes, that is definitely the case, and it just goes to show that when it comes to this sort of thing, when it comes to actually drawing things to a logical conclusion, if you're honest with yourself about the situation, you may find yourself in places that nobody else wants to be.
That's right. That's right.
But so you have we have Northrop, we have all of this crap going on, but one thing that isn't straightened out and isn't for sure, you and I look almost nothing alike, and sir, we have both been considered Rachel Maddow, that guy on MSNBS.
This is a very impressive thing. Maybe we're half siblings. Maybe we only have half the same DNA.
I don't know what the hell is going on. It is beyond my comprehension. She is obviously your doppelganger, not mine. What is going on?
I keep trying to invite her onto my show, but I'm not sure that. I think if she came on the show, probably the universe would implode.
It might. Only if you touched. Only if you touched.
That's right. It would, but it also. This is part of why my schedule is so hard these days. It's why I'm not sleeping a lot. Is because I have to go do my show at the Daily Wire. Then maybe I'll do an appearance on TV or something. But then I've got to hop over to MSNBC to be able to do my daily show.
Yeah, you got to go peddle the crap over at MSNBS.
That's right. Look, it's really expensive over here in L.A., all right? It's really hard to make ends meet. And so if it means I have to do one of the premier leftist programs in the nation. I'll have to do it. You know, I'm willing to make sacrifices for my family.
It's a hard world.
I just assume that basically any conservative podcast gets better ratings than Rachel Maddow's TV show. I think that's almost without question, right?
That's pretty much without question. I mean, I'm only on the radio and the internet, and yet I'm pretty sure I get better ratings than Rachel Maddow, and that's pretty bad considering I've only been around for 2 years.
No question.
That's really not good. But if you're trying to get things straight, if you are in trouble financially and maybe you need some help, you know, one of the biggest things that you can do is you can cut some of your bills. One of your biggest bills to cut, your cell phone bill. Why is that? Well, because most of your cell phone companies out there, they fund liberal causes that you hate. They're liberal gun grabbers and all of this other mess. Patriot Mobile is America's only conservative cell phone company, and it's doing the exact opposite. If you're fed up with disgusting policies like New York's abortion law that we just talked about, Bloomberg's gun control plans, the stalemate over borders policies, and to make just go ahead and make the simple switch to Patriot Mobile. Join the thousands of American patriots using Patriot Mobile and get reliable nationwide coverage, and watch your hard-earned money find the First and Second Amendment rights. Fight for the First and Second Amendment rights, border security, and the sanctity of life. It's not only a veteran-led organization, but they donate portions of your bill to conservative causes that you like, such as the Heritage Foundation, the NRA, Susan B. Anthony List, and so much more. Switching to Patriot Mobile couldn't be easier. Today, they have unlimited plans for talk and text starting as low as $20 a month. You can keep your phone. You can keep your service. If you call them at 1-800-A-PATRIOT or visit them at patriotmobile.com/mojo. If you use the 1-800-A-PATRIOT, tell them that Mojo sent you. You can get up to 2 activation fees waived on the spot. So 1-800-A-PATRIOT, tell them Mojo sent you, or patriotmobile.com/mojo today. You can get that waived, and you can get great service at a great price, and you can help support conservative causes. Because MSNBS doesn't need your money anymore. Isn't that right?
I think that's probably about right. I think you've convinced me. I've got to go get a new cell phone after this.
Well, you don't have to get a new cell phone, but you could at least get better service.
Right. That is certainly. You know, even with all that, we were trying to get this interview to work today, and the service kept cutting out. I think it's because I'm not using a suitably conservative cell plan. I think basically you've got not just big tech, but big cellular coming in and trying to shut us down.
Big mobile trying to shut us down over the freaking Skypes. Over the Skypes. Yeah. Big mobile's trying to shut us down. I can't believe it. You may have just hit the nail on the head. Go to patriotmobile.com/mojo. Get your new cell phone service today. So, besides MSNBS, besides looking like Rachel Maddow, which neither of us actually do. It just happens to be that she has a boy's cut and is thin, which I'm only slightly thin. I can't really say too much. You know, I've gotten fatter as the days have gone longer. But
yeah, well, yeah, I'm in the club.
It's the whole getting married thing. You get married, you have kids, and suddenly you don't look as thin and svelte as you used to. I mean, it's one of those situations.
I haven't even had kids yet. I've just gotten married, and so now I eat 3 meals a day. Previously, I would just eat whatever scraps were around me in the gutter. And
yes.
Yeah, they just every day. I said, man, these pants all keep shrinking. That's a negative side effect of marriage.
I swear somebody just like takes it and it takes about a 1/4 inch in every 2 weeks. You know?
Every 3 hours, yeah.
Every 3 hours, every 2 weeks, whatever. Yeah, it's neither here nor there. So let's go back to the college thing. So because the generation coming up, we have Generation Z. Generation Z is about to get into college. And Generation Z, if you don't know, they're very much like the people that listen to Mojo 50, the people that listen to the Daily Wire and things like that. See, we over at Mojo 50, the people that listen to us, we passionately call them the Jackhole Nation. So no holes there, but the Generation Z coming up is very much Jackhole in likeness. They don't care. They don't care what you think. They're going to do exactly what they're going to do, and they're going to make money doing it. I see that as a good thing, and I see that as maybe the downfall to the college industry, as it were. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I noticed this even on our show, the Michael Knowles show, or on our other Daily Wire shows. Excuse me. The audience, I think the median age is like 7. You know, these kids are all very young.
It's crazy.
They're all in college, some are in high school. Yeah, and they're very curious. I think they've got much more level heads than millennials do, and then older generations generally have had. And they're really, really funny. I mean, this might be the defining feature of them. There's a meme that goes around which says the left can't meme. The left is just not good at internet humor. Why
NPC?
is that? Because the left. Right, yeah. Well, in the end, yeah, they don't get the NPC memes. They don't get any of them. And it's because they, I think, one, have a really tragic view of the world. Not even tragic so much as dour and sad and ugly and pessimistic. You know, Horace Walpole, the Gothic novelist, said that life is a comedy to the man who thinks and a tragedy to the man who feels. And the left is governed by this tyranny of feelings right now. So they're just all angry and shrieking and yelling all the time. Whereas for the Generation Z, they're thinkers. They're a little more curious. They're a little more logical, and they're really funny. And they can see, just to use the Green New Deal for an example, how many times have we been told that within 10 years, global warming is going to kill us all, the polar bears will all be dead, New York will be underwater, Florida will be underwater, everything is going to go to hell in a handbasket.
Yes.
And it doesn't ever happen. It's always going to happen the day after tomorrow. And I think the Gen Z in particular, they just identify that. They can make fun of it. They can mock it. They can see the hilarity, the incongruities when you juxtapose the leftist view of reality with reality itself.
Yes.
And this I think has brought them over in a really conservative way. Maybe they're not all Reagan Revolution types wearing Brooks Brothers ties and blue blazers, but they've got a real conservative character to them. And I think they follow in a bright Bartian sense. They understand that the culture is where it's at. The culture is going to define politics, and so they're much more culturally attuned than maybe the millennials, who are basically sort of technocratic, idealistic policy wonks.
Yes.
But policy, who cares about the policies? You've lost the culture. You've lost it all.
Yeah. And that is one of the biggest things. And I think the culture that's coming out now, you know, with Twitch and TikTok and all of these applications, it is the internet generation. It is the generation that's going to be bred online. And these people that are coming up nowadays, they're seemingly more independent with almost everything and every aspect that they have. And their ideas and their understanding is very they're very open when it comes to ideas on how to do things right and how to make things better. They take criticism well, it seems, instead of just running and hiding in a corner and crying themselves to sleep. They actually want to do better. They want to succeed, and they find their own mentors. They find people that they see as successful and continue down their footsteps instead of just letting the government handout do what it does.
Or even letting the linear corporate media do what they do. I mean, the way that I come and interact with these kids is because they seek out my show. It's not like I'm on a linear television network that they just have on in the background.
Right.
They come seek it out. They'll come seek out your show on the internet. They'll go and find. Maybe they'll go down a rabbit hole. They'll watch a Steven Crowder video, or they'll watch I don't know, a Jordan Peterson video, or something. Somehow maybe they'll watch a Ben video. Maybe they'll come on over, and they're seeking that information themselves. It's not being just fed to them in a pre-approved manner. And I think that's why their thought is more interesting. I think it's why their politics is more interesting. And I think we can look with genuine hope for their future, for what they're going to do in their personal lives and in their public lives, because they're charting their own course. They're not being force-fed a pre-written narrative.
Exactly. And that is kind of the best thing about it. We have Actually, that's a good note to end on right there. Music's coming in, everything's hitting. That's a good note to end on. These people, the next generation coming up, is the future of what we have. These guys are coming through, and they are going to burn the bridges and create new trails. Guys, this has been Steven Airey with Defenders Live on Mojo 50. I've had Michael Knowles with me. Go check him out. He has the Michael Knowles Show on the Daily Wire. You can go buy his books and everything else. Go check out the Daily Wire. Michael, do you have a website specifically?
Well, I always say go find the Daily Wire, but if you forget, you can find it on my link, michaeljknowles.com.
michaeljknowles.com?
Instagram, all that kind of stuff.
Yep. There you go, michaeljknowles.com. Go to dailywire.com. Figure out all the stuff there. I get a lot of news from that site as well as we dive through. We'll check it out. Good night, Doc Thompson. We know where you are. On Young. Now you go home.